Hey guys, it's me again. Another video tonight. Just read a really interesting article. A little quick. It was a short one, but it was interview done with the assistant. I think he's the assistant commissioner, Bill Daly, saying that his belief is that NHL expansion into Europe is inevitable. Now, I think this year, as from according to the article, this year is the first year that the NHL has TV rights and deals with services over in Europe. And as we all know, I believe there's been 5 games played, or at least 5 games scheduled for this year, in what they're calling the Global Series in Europe. Now they did this last year as well. I think they had 3 games last year. I know that they just had Winnipeg and Florida played 2 games over there, which was great because Patrick Laine and Alexander Barkov are both, I think one's from Finland, one's from Sweden or something like that. They're from that area, Scandinavia. I mean, I'm not sure. I could be wrong on this. I know one of them is definitely Finnish. I believe it's Alexander Barkov. I believe that he's Finnish. But this excites me a lot. It excites me a lot for this reason. I've said, I don't remember which video it was, but I know I've said in a previous video, I believe, that I think that it would be really cool if we had 5 divisions in the NHL. We know that Seattle is coming in either, I think in 2 or 3 years, they should be their first season, 2020 or 2020, 2021. Or I think the 2020-2021 season's the earliest, so we'll say 2 years because it's still 2018. Maybe a year, somewhere about 2 more seasons. So that would make 32. It would even up all. Well, once they get to figure out who's going to move to which division, that evens up all the divisions. All the divisions will have, I believe, 8. Yes, we'll all have 8 teams. And I don't believe that the NHL has any desire to stop expanding. I mean, if the money's there and they can make the money, they'd be stupid not to try. But with how much the game has grown overseas, we have more European players coming into this league than ever before. We have more Russians, we have more Swedes, we have more Europeans. I'm particularly a fan of a lot of the German guys that have come over. 2 of my favorite players being Marcel Gottsch, who I believe just retired, and Leon Draisaitl from the Edmonton Oilers. He's probably the only Oiler I actually like. Except for Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. I like him too. But I love Leon Draisaitl, and he's a good German boy, and I'm being of German descent. I have a soft spot for German hockey players and German players in general. I mean, I do follow Bundesliga a bit. Bayern Munich in the English translation, is my favorite soccer team. It's the only soccer team I really pay attention to. I don't follow the English league or anything like that. I follow the German league, the German Bundesliga, which is the German Premier League. I follow them. Big Lewandowski fan who also plays for Bayern Munich, and hell of a good player. But anyway, it's off topic. I think it'd be really interesting to have the 4 divisions here in North America, and then have a 5th division in Europe, have 8 more teams over there. That could be really interesting. They say that the short-term hurdles they have, and none of these are deal breakers, they're just make it difficult short-term, is travel and whatnot. But here's how I think they can change that. They can have focus more on interdivision play and less on crossover. So you'd have metropolitan teams mostly playing metropolitan teams, Atlantic, Pacific, Central, all that. They'd all be playing within their division as opposed to playing so much across the country, across the road, or on the road. But the thing that could work too is that with having a European league or a European division, as far as travel time goes, they say they have to worry about NHL size arenas and ticket pricing and everything, but that's stuff they can hash out. The ticket prices, that's just whatever. They can hash that out, whatever. But as far as the arenas go, I don't know about all of them, but I know that in Europe there are some arenas that are, I think some of them could fit 9 or 10,000. I know that's a little on the low side for NHL. I mean, hell, the Pensacola Ice Flyers max out at just over 8,000. So, I mean, if you figure if you're doing that and you're not charging $20 a ticket like they do here, and you're charging, you know, 60 or 100, even $120, like, I think with 8 or 10,000 people, if you can sell out or get close to packing that arena every night, and I think in Europe they would, because the one thing about Europeans is that oh, my battery's down. Hold on, let me plug my phone in. I'm gonna have to turn the car on. I'm gonna have to turn the car on. Hold on a second, guys. One thing about Europe is that they are incredibly passionate. Oh, I should keep that on. You can't see me now. They're incredibly passionate about their sports teams, and that includes hockey. I mean, it starts with soccer. The culture came from football, European football. They are rabid with their football teams over there. Rabid, absolutely ravenous fans. And the great thing about that is that transfers over to any sport that they follow. I mean, Post to Post has said this, has shared this on their channel. Neil said this before. Shannon has said this a time or two here and there as well, that European fans, in their own words, are incredibly passionate sports fans. And there's a ton of hockey fans in Europe. There's actually a lot in the United Kingdom, and that hooliganism, as they call it, in Europe, the whole crazy, you know, fighting other teams, like fighting other fans from other teams and everything like that, I think personally that's a bit extreme. But the good thing about that is that means their passion is there. Their passion and their love for their team, for supporting their team, is there. So I think that a European division would have a lot easier time selling tickets and selling out games than we do over here in North America. You know, because some teams, no matter how good they're doing, won't draw flies. You just can't. Like, look at the Islanders. Now, the Islanders, granted, are a bit of a poor example because they have a really terrible arena right now. But I honestly don't think that's going to change when they go back to Nassau. I think they're still going to struggle to put butts in seats. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole paid attendance versus actual attendance debate, because as far as the bottom line goes, it doesn't matter. Yes, it looks bad when you have empty seats, but if you have corporate people buying season tickets and whatever, and they're owned by different corporations or businesses and whatnot, and people, they just don't have any, like the person who has the tickets or whatever just doesn't show up or whatever, it doesn't matter because they're still paid for. And that's the bottom line. The bottom line is these owners, they want to make money. And they don't have to necessarily have people in those seats to make money. They just have to sell them. So I don't think there's going to be an issue selling tickets in Europe. And I think it'd be really, really cool to have 5 divisions in the NHL. Because you have the European teams will all play against each other. And then, you'd probably have, you'd think about it is too, if you work it, you'd always have 2 or 3 North American teams in Europe playing. Because the way to me that makes logically, now this will probably will be rough on the players. But as far as money goes and travel cost, the most logical thing says that if you are going to have the North American divisions play interdivisional games in Europe against the European teams, play all of them. So a team's going to go over and play the entire division. So there'll be 8 games, which is a lot. That's a lot of hockey to play on a road trip. That's a long-ass road trip. But the thing about it is that I could see them, every team that plays when they come back from Europe, and this is going to be a scheduling nightmare for whoever it is that does the scheduling for the NHL, but it could work. It could work. If it's done right and done properly, it can work. Give them a bye week when they come back, because they just played an 8-game road stretch in Europe, and then they fly over the Atlantic Ocean and they come back here. Give them 4 or 5 days off, a week off when they get back, so they don't have to play anybody. Because they're going to need to recoup. They're going to need at least a few days, at least 3, 4, 5 days to recoup from the jet lag and having just played an 8-game road thing. But the thing about it is, is it that much more brutal than what they do now? I mean, teams will go on 4 or 5 game road trips. So adding a few more games on that isn't that big of a deal. Now, you're going to be in Europe for at least 2 weeks. And I mean, you're not going to be playing every single night, obviously. But I think it could work. I think as far as travel costs it would make a little more sense to where the divisions don't actually see the other teams in the other divisions until playoffs. Now, that would mean that East Coast teams wouldn't be playing West Coast teams and yada yada. I mean, you could even have a conference, have interconference play, like have the Western Conference, so West teams just play West teams, East teams just play East teams, and European teams just play European teams. But the playoffs, you're going to have to do it. But I mean, hell, you could have some atrocious third rounds in there when you have, back and forth. Now, with another thing, the playoffs could be tricky with 5 divisions. It could be very tricky with 5 divisions. Now, we could push it further and have 48 teams instead of just 40. And have 2 European divisions. Now, what I think would be really cool would be to have a European division and a Russian division. So you have like European divisions. So you have like you have a Scandinavian team and a German team and an English team and this, that, and the next thing. And then you have another team. You have like say 8 teams in Russia, or it'd be like Russia, Kazakhstan, China. You mean the Russian division? You can include Asian teams. I mean, we've played games in China. We could have a Chinese team. We could have a Japanese team. Like, you have the Tokyo Dragons or something, or the Tokyo, what was it, the Kappas. That's one of their mythological creatures. Tokyo Kappas, or the Japan Kappas. Team Japan. I mean, it could work. It'd be crazy. And you'd be growing the sport worldwide. Now, the big issue that I have with some leagues, I'm going to use the Major League because the Major League Championship is called the World Series. Okay? It's the World Series. It's supposed to be the best players, the best teams in the world, right? Now, you can argue that it is the best teams, the best players in the world, because the only teams that are in the Major League Baseball are North American. I mean, i.e. America and one in Canada. You have the Toronto Maple Leafs, not the Maple Leafs, that's the hockey team. Toronto Blue Jays, the only baseball team in Canada. So I argue that it's not a World Series. You don't have international teams playing in it, unless it's Toronto, and that's the only one. And can we really call a Canadian team international? I mean, technically, on technicality, yes, it is. However, it they don't feel like an international team. They feel like an American team, or they feel like a North American team. And when I say American in this, I'm going to mean North America, not United States of America. So, yeah. And it bugs me. So, when you have the Stanley Cup, if they do this, if they have a European division, or even 2 European divisions, have a European conference, or have it called the North America, like the Western Conference, Eastern Conference, and say the World Conference, because then you can just include the European Conference to have Europe, Russia, Asia. Hell, I don't know, actually, I wasn't saying you can include Australia because it's huge in Australia, but I think that's just too much. That's so much travel time. So you're gonna have a team fly from New York City to freaking Sydney. It's like a 14-hour plane ride. That's just crazy. 20-hour plane ride. I don't know. It's like on the other side of the world. So yes, travel at times will be a nightmare with it, but I think in the long run it would benefit the league as a whole. You'd be getting more players from other, we have European players and Russian players coming, but who's to say that there aren't talented hockey players in Australia or the United Kingdom or China or Japan? Now, the Asian ones, at risk of sounding a bit racist, you could argue that some of them may not be NHL size, but there's been plenty of players in the past that have been told they're too small and they'll never be anything in the NHL because it's too small. The two that come to mind are Martin St. Louis, who just got inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. Congratulations, not a big deal. And one of my personal favorite players, current players, Nathan Gerbe, who is 2 inches taller than I am. He's got about 70 pounds on me, but 70, no, about 50 pounds. He got about 50 pounds on me, but he's not much taller than me. He's a great player, and he's not really big. I mean, Martin St. Louis, I think, was 5'8", small guy, not a big guy at all. Now, generally, hockey players are large, but I really feel that the game is getting faster, and it's appealing more to players of smaller stature because you need to be fast on your feet, you need to be quick, you need to have good hands. You don't necessarily need to be laying guys out all the time. Now, you're going to still be expected to do that, and you're going to have some kind of strength to do that as well. However, I argue that shorter guys, or shorter players, because I would love eventually if they would include women. I mean, at the very least as goalies. And especially I hope they don't take hitting out of the game. But it seems to me that hitting is becoming less of a focus. Like, it is still important and it is still a focus, but we don't have enforcers anymore. I think the closest thing that we have to an enforcer in the league today is Ryan Reeves. And he's not even technically a true enforcer. He's a grinder. And players like him, unfortunately, from my perspective, because those are my favorite types of players, where the ornery fucking guys who go just bust heads, and hey, if they can score goals, that's cool too. But the league's really getting away from that. And a lot of people say the NHL doesn't want that. It has nothing to do with what the NHL wants. It has everything to do with the fact that owners, coaches, GMs have found and realized that right now in the current state of the league, you have to roll 4 lines, and you have to have 4 lines that can score. Now, obviously, your top 9 and your bottom 6 guys are not going to be expected to score 20 or 30 goals a season. But if your fourth liners can score 5, 10, 15 goals, even 10, if your fourth liners can score 10 goals and your third liners can score 15 or 20, I mean, actually, you would argue the 20 goal score would be like a second liner. But I mean, if your bottom 2 lines each player can get about between 5 to 10, 15 goals apiece, that's good. Because that's depth scoring. That wins games. There's been a lot of games, especially at the beginning of this season, where your third and fourth liners are the only ones that put up points in a game. I've seen it happen with Pittsburgh a lot. Malkin and Crosby are just ghosts. They're nowhere to be found. And then you see guys like a Carl Hagelin, or even like a Zach Aston-Reese, who's one of the new guys. Could see them start putting up points, and it's good because it gives these young people these young guys to come in, opportunity to show what they have and show that I can lay guys out, and I can fight, and I can be tough, and I can play defense. But hey, guess what? I can score goals too, and I can score goals on a fourth line with minimal minutes, because that stuff matters, and that's why fighting is getting out of the game, because it's more valuable to a team to have a guy on the fourth line who could put up 5 or 10 goals, maybe 15 or 20 points in a season, than a guy that gets 300 penalty minutes and puts up like 2 points, 3 points in a whole season. It's more valuable to them to put somebody in who can contribute offensively than somebody whose only thing that they do is fight and check. Checking is important, but there are plenty of players out there who can play tough, play hard, and still score goals. And that's what the league wants right now. That's where the league and the game has progressed to. Sports in general